Every October, a handful of really brilliant people get a phone call that completely changes their lives. They've just been told they've won a Nobel Prize. It's the most famous award in the world, celebrating things that have given the greatest benefit to humankind. But the story of how this prize for genius came to be, well, it starts in a very strange place, with a man who is famous for creating a tool of destruction. Can you imagine waking up one morning and reading your own obituary in the newspaper? That's exactly what happened to a man named Alfred Nobel back in 1888. A newspaper had made a huge mistake, and the headline was just brutal. It called him the Merchant of Death. This one shocking moment would set a plan in motion to completely change how the world remembered him. So, who was this so-called Merchant of Death? Well, Alfred Nobel was a man of incredible contrasts. He was a brilliant scientist and an inventor, but his road to fame and fortune was, well, literally explosive. Nobel's most famous invention was, of course, dynamite. On one hand, it was an amazing tool for construction. It let us blast tunnels through mountains and build massive canals. But on the other hand, it also changed warfare, making it more deadly than ever. This double-edged sword earned him that dark reputation and a whole lot of money. When you look at the timeline, it's pretty fascinating. First, you have dynamite in 1867. Then, 21 years later, that shocking obituary. You can tell that headline really got to him because he spent years thinking about his legacy. That led him to sign a totally radical new will in 1895. And by 1901, his big idea became a reality. What he did in that will was just revolutionary. He left almost his entire fortune, which was a staggering amount of money back then, to create 5 prizes for people who gave the greatest benefit to humankind. At a time when fortunes were always passed down to family, this was just unheard of. His relatives were stunned, but Nobel's vision was crystal clear. He wanted his money to celebrate the best of humanity, not its worst. And this brings us to the prizes themselves. The categories Nobel picked weren't just random. Nope, they actually reflected his own passions as a scientist, a lover of literature, and someone who really believed in peace. So what's really interesting is how he split up the work. Nobel trusted institutions in his home country of Sweden to handle the prizes for physics, chemistry, medicine, and literature. But the Peace Prize, he gave that big responsibility to a committee in Norway. That's why we still have those 2 separate ceremonies today. Now, you might be thinking, hey, wait, what about the prize for economics? Well, that one wasn't actually in Nobel's original will. It was created way later, in 1968, by Sweden's central bank. They did it in memory of Alfred Nobel, so while it's awarded with all the others, it's kind of the new kid on the block. So how does someone actually win a Nobel Prize? Well, here's the thing. You can't apply for it, and you definitely can't nominate yourself. The selection process is this long, careful journey that's wrapped in a whole lot of secrecy. The whole process starts a full year ahead of time. First, thousands of experts all over the world are secretly invited to nominate people. Then, the Nobel committees spend months whittling down that list and having other experts check out the top contenders' work. Finally, in early October, the big vote happens and those famous phone calls are made. And all of this, the entire process, happens behind a wall of silence that lasts for 50 years. That's right. Everything about the nominations, who was nominated, who nominated them, all the debates the committees had, it's all sealed away for half a century. So why be so secretive? Well, it's actually the key to the prize's reputation. This rule protects the whole process from public pressure and people trying to influence the decision. It makes sure that a Nobel Prize isn't something you can campaign for. It's something that is given to you by experts, and that gives the award its incredible weight. Being named a Nobel laureate brings a ton of prestige, for sure. But the winners, or laureates as they're called, also get 3 very special and symbolic items. Every winner gets the famous Nobel medal, a one-of-a-kind diploma that is basically a piece of art, and a pretty big cash prize. In recent years, it's been around $1 million. Now that medal is considered priceless, and people have gone to some incredible lengths to protect it. Get this, when the Nazis invaded Denmark during World War II, they were looking for the Nobel medals of 2 German physicists. To hide them, a chemist came up with a really clever plan. He took the solid gold medals and dissolved them in a powerful acid. It turned them into this ordinary-looking beaker of orange liquid. The Nazi soldiers searched the lab but walked right past it, completely ignoring it.
After the war ended, the chemist just reversed the process and got all the gold back out of the acid.
And he sent it back to the Nobel Foundation. And they used that exact same gold to make the original medals all over again for the laureates. This story just shows you how much these symbols mean, not just to the winners, but to the entire world. But the real power of the Nobel Prize comes from the stories of the people who've won it. Their journeys are these incredible lessons in dedication, courage, and just sticking with it.
Just look at Marie Curie. I mean, she broke barriers everywhere she went. She was the first woman to ever win a Nobel, the first person ever to win one twice, and she's still the only person in history to win in 2 different scientific fields, physics in 1903 and chemistry in 1911. Her dedication was just off the charts.
Then you have someone like Martin Luther King Jr. He got the Peace Prize in 1964. He said he accepted it not for himself, but for the thousands of people working in the civil rights movement. And the prize money? He donated every single penny of it right back to the cause. And more recently, there's the story of Malala Yousafzai. When the Taliban banned girls from going to school where she lived in Pakistan, she spoke out. For her incredible bravery, she was targeted and shot. But she survived, and that attempt to silence her only made her voice stronger and louder. When Malala won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014, she was just 17 years old. That made her the youngest Nobel laureate in history. Her story is just amazing proof that courage and a powerful idea can come from anyone at any age. When you look at the stories of all the winners, you start to see a clear pattern. Success comes from this powerful mix of curiosity, creativity, and a ton of hard work. All of it fueled by this deep desire to make the world a better place. And that's right there is the lasting legacy of Alfred Nobel's will. He took a fortune that was built on destruction and turned it into a worldwide celebration of human progress that inspires all of us. It reminds us that the next big idea, the next breakthrough, the next step towards peace, it could come from anywhere. And it leaves us all with one final question. Could it come from you?